Let's talk now about the trial of the Passion of Christ. We are going to try to provide a legal look in the light of the 21st century, the Passion Judgment, the central episode of the New Testament that narrates the arrest trial. Crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ has transcended the religious sphere to become a historical event with profound repercussions both on culture, politics, and notably on the development of Western law. It seems to me as a teacher, it is important to analyze this process from a legal perspective stripped of religious dogmas, to understand its impact on the legal structures that govern society. In the year 2024, the gospel story presents a scenario that is very complex. Jesus, a Jewish preacher of notable influence, he is deprived of his liberty by the Jewish authorities and accused of blasphemy for proclaiming himself the Messiah, the Son of God, later brought before Pontius Pilate, the Roman or Judean prefect, under the charge of sedition to proclaim himself King of the Jews. This transfer of jurisdiction from the religious to the Roman civil is a crucial point that deserves special attention. From a modern legal point of view, the process followed in the Sanhedrin, that is the Jewish religious court, suffers from serious defects. It was carried out at night against Jewish law, and false testimonies were used, violating basic principles of justice. The speed with which the death sentence was handed down suggests a summary trial without due process. It is evident that the goal of the Sanhedrin was not to determine Jesus' guilt, but to eliminate a leader who, in their opinion, threatened their authority. Pilate's intervention introduces a new nuance to the case. Although the Jewish authorities considered Jesus a heretic in the eyes of the Roman Empire, his crime was political in nature. The accusation of sedition by proclaiming oneself king in a territory under Roman rule constituted a direct threat to the established order. However, Pilate himself, according to the Gospels, recognizes the lack of hard evidence against Jesus. His famous act of washing his hands symbolizes his desire to avoid the responsibility of condemning a man who in his internal forum considered him innocent. The pressure of the crowd and the threat of a mutiny forced him to give in, ordering crucifixion, a typically Roman form of execution reserved for common criminals and rebels. What lessons can we draw from this process from a contemporary legal perspective? Several things. First, the Passion trial reveals the fragility of judicial institutions in the face of political and social pressures. The Sanhedrin, influenced by religious interests, and Pilate, pressured by the crowd, put political expediency before justice. This is a timeless reminder that judicial independence is a fundamental pillar of any legal system that calls itself fair and equitable. Secondly, the case illustrates the importance of due process guarantees such as the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence, and the prohibition of torture. These guarantees were flagrantly violated at Jesus' trial. They are today cornerstones of modern criminal law and are found sacred in international treaties such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thirdly, the duality of jurisdictions. We know the religious one on the one hand and the civil one on the other, and the ambiguity in charges such as blasphemy, sedition. They warn us about the dangers of the intersection between religion and politics in the judicial sphere. The separation of church and state, a fundamental principle of modern democracies, seeks to prevent faith from being used as an instrument of persecution or as a justification for the arbitrary exercise of power. What legal repercussions can we have? Finding in the 21st century, the legal legacy of the Passion Trial extends beyond procedural analysis. Over the centuries, this event has been interpreted and reinterpreted, influencing the development of concepts such as freedom of conscience, the right to dissent, and resistance to tyranny. The figure of Jesus as an innocent man unjustly condemned has become a universal symbol of the fight against oppression and the defense of human rights in Chile, a country with a strong Christian tradition. The influence of this event on legal culture is undeniable. Respect for human dignity. The protection of minorities and the pursuit of social justice are values that, although they have multiple origins, find a resonant echo in the narrative of passion. In conclusion, more than 2,000 years later, the trial of the Passion of Christ continues to be a relevant object of study for jurists and citizens, as well as its analysis. It allows us to reflect on the weaknesses and strengths of our judicial systems, the importance of procedural guarantees, and the need to defend the principles of justice and equality before the law in Chile in 2024. Remembering this episode stripped of its religious aura and analyzed from a strictly legal point of view, I believe is a vital exercise. To strengthen institutions and ensure that justice and powerlessness is the cornerstone in our society and our legal system. Well, I hope that this reflection has been helpful to you, especially law students and citizens who have interests for legal topics. And if you want to find other reflections, you can see my YouTube channel, a channel called Aboa G Valma Shai. You can also consult my podcast on Spotify, where I address current national and international legal issues, where we analyze sentences. I also analyze relevant cases in Chile and abroad. Thank you very much.